My parents renovated my apartment while I was away. They gave it to my sister and put my life in storage. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. I'm a 28-year-old man who just experienced what I can only describe as the most egregious violation of my privacy and property rights. 2 weeks ago, I left for a business trip, locking my apartment and expecting to return to everything exactly as I left it. I've lived in this place for 3 years, spent thousands renovating it, and made it truly my own. It's my sanctuary after long workdays. Yesterday, I returned home exhausted from travel, dragged my suitcase up 3 flights of stairs, the elevator was out, as usual, and put my key in the lock. It turned, but something felt off. When I opened the door, I froze. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, looked familiar. The gray sectional I'd saved for months to buy. Gone. My extensive book collection that took up an entire wall? Vanished. My gaming setup, my kitchen appliances I'd carefully selected, even the bedding, all replaced with items I didn't recognize. Pink throw pillows adorned a white couch. Floral curtains hung where my blinds used to be. The walls, which I'd painted a deep blue, were now a soft beige. For a solid minute, I thought I'd somehow entered the wrong apartment. I checked the unit number, confused and disoriented. But no, this was 3B, my apartment. I called my landlord immediately, thinking there had been some catastrophic mistake. Maybe a pipe had burst while I was gone, necessitating renovations, and someone had mixed up the units? "Oh, your parents handled everything," he said, sounding completely unconcerned. "They came by with the spare key you gave them, said they were helping you renovate for your sister. Had all the proper authorization forms." My blood ran cold. I never authorized anything. Yes, I'd given my parents a spare key for emergencies years ago, but this wasn't an emergency. This was... I don't even have words for what this was. I called my mom, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. "Surprise," she chirped when she answered. "Do you love what we did with the place? Your sister really needed a fresh start after that awful breakup with Eric, and your father and I thought this would be perfect. You're always saying how you're never home anyway." I was speechless. My sister Michelle had indeed broken up with her boyfriend a month ago, but I'd never once indicated I was willing to give up my home for her. Yes, I travel occasionally for work, but this is my permanent residence. I've never even hinted at moving or wanting a roommate. "Where are my things?" I finally managed to ask. "We put everything in storage," my mother replied, as if this were the most reasonable thing in the world. "Don't worry, we were very careful. Michelle's already moved in most of her stuff, and she'll be bringing the rest tomorrow. We thought you could stay with us for a while until you find a new place." "Isn't that great?" I hung up without responding and immediately called my sister. She answered on the first ring, sounding guilty. "I know you're probably surprised," she started. "Surprised? Surprised? Michelle, this is breaking and entering. This is theft. I can't even begin to list all the laws you and Mom and Dad have broken." "Don't be so dramatic," she said, her tone hardening. "Mom and Dad said you were fine with it. They said you mentioned wanting to move closer to work anyway, and this was perfect timing with my breakup. I needed somewhere new to start over." "I never said any such thing," I replied, my voice shaking. "This is my home, Michelle. I'm not looking to move, and I never offered my apartment to you or anyone else." "Well, it's too late now," she snapped. "My lease at my old place is up, my stuff is already here, and I'm not going back to Eric. You can afford a new place. Why are you being so selfish?" I ended the call and sat on the unfamiliar couch, trying to process what had happened. My family had essentially stolen my home, disposed of my possessions, and now expected me to be okay with it. The violation felt physical, like someone had reached inside me and rearranged my organs without permission. Last night, I stayed at a hotel because I couldn't bear to sleep in what felt like a stranger's apartment. Today, I went to the storage facility where my parents allegedly took my belongings. Many items were damaged from improper packing and handling. Some things, including an irreplaceable watch that had belonged to my grandfather, were missing entirely. I've been in contact with a lawyer and will be pursuing legal action against my own family. I never thought I'd be in this position, but I can't let this stand. The sheer entitlement and disregard for my boundaries is staggering. My parents have been calling non-stop, alternating between apologizing, "We thought you'd be happy to help your sister," and making me feel guilty, "Family helps family in times of need." My sister has switched from defensive to pleading, claiming she has nowhere else to go. I don't know what to do. I feel violated, betrayed, and homeless. My lawyer says I have a strong case for illegal eviction and conversion of property, but the thought of taking my own family to court makes me sick. At the same time, I can't let them get away with this level of boundary violation. Has anyone dealt with something similar? How do I even begin to handle this nightmare? Update: 1 week later, it gets worse. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Your support and advice have been invaluable during this incredibly difficult time. Unfortunately, things have escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. After consulting with my lawyer, I sent a formal demand letter to my parents and sister, insisting that Michelle vacate my apartment immediately and that my parents cover all costs associated with restoring my home and replacing damaged or missing items. My lawyer advised me to document everything meticulously and to communicate only in writing going forward. The response? My parents have gone on a family-wide smear campaign. Apparently, they've told everyone, aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, that I generously offered my apartment to Michelle after a breakup, and that I'm now cruelly trying to renege on my offer because of a selfish attachment to material things. I found this out when my aunt called to tell me how disappointed she was in my behavior. Your sister is going through a terrible time, she lectured. I always thought you were such a kind young man. What happened to you? When I explained what actually happened, that I never offered my apartment and came home from a business trip to find my home effectively stolen, she didn't believe me. Your mother would never do something like that, she insisted. There must be a misunderstanding. Similar calls followed from other relatives. My uncle suggested I man up and take care of my sister. My cousin told me I was being petty about a few pieces of furniture. It became clear that my parents had crafted a completely fictional narrative, and most of the family had accepted it without question. The most infuriating part? When confronted, my parents doubled down. We thought you'd come around and realize this was for the best, my father said during a tense phone call. Michelle needs this more than you do. You're successful. You can recover. She's fragile right now. My sister's stance has also hardened. She sent me a lengthy text message claiming I was destroying the family with my selfishness, and that I should be grateful they kept my old junk instead of throwing it away. She's made no move to vacate the apartment and continues to act as if I'm the unreasonable one. I decided to visit the storage unit again to assess the full extent of the damage to my belongings. It was worse than I initially thought. Many of my books were water damaged from being stored improperly. My expensive mattress had been propped against the wall and had developed mold. Electronics had been haphazardly tossed into bins without proper padding. The total value of damaged items easily exceeds $10,000, and that's not counting the missing items. My grandfather's watch is still unaccounted for. When I asked about it directly, my mother vaguely recalled seeing it but couldn't remember what happened to it. This watch was one of my most treasured possessions, not because of its monetary value but because of its sentimental importance. The thought that it might be lost forever due to my family's carelessness is heartbreaking. After discussing options with my lawyer, I've decided to proceed with legal action. Yesterday, we filed a civil lawsuit against my parents and sister for illegal eviction, conversion of property, and emotional distress. We're also exploring the possibility of criminal charges related to the unauthorized entry and effective theft of my apartment. My lawyer has advised me to prepare for an extended legal battle. My parents have significant financial resources and have already hired their own attorney, who sent a dismissive response to our initial filing, characterizing this as a family misunderstanding that doesn't belong in court. In the meantime, I'm still essentially homeless. I've extended my hotel stay and am looking for a short-term rental while this plays out. The financial strain is significant. Hotels aren't cheap, and I'm still paying mortgage on an apartment I can't live in. Some family members have reached out after hearing about the lawsuit, now expressing concern about the escalation. It seems that legal action suddenly makes this real for them in a way that my violated boundaries didn't. A few have suggested family mediation instead of court, but at this point, I don't see how mediation can address the fundamental issue. My family took something that wasn't theirs to take, damaged my possessions, and expected me to accept it. The emotional toll has been enormous. I've had trouble sleeping, focusing at work, and maintaining normal routines. The betrayal by the people I should be able to trust most is devastating. I've started seeing a therapist to help process everything, which has been somewhat helpful. One small positive note: my manager at work has been incredibly understanding, allowing me flexibility with my schedule as I deal with this situation. I'm grateful for this support, as it's one of the few steady elements in my life right now. I'll update again as the legal process unfolds. Thank you again for your support. Update 2. 3 months later, legal progress and family fallout. It's been 3 months since I last updated, and so much has happened that I hardly know where to begin. The legal process has been moving forward, albeit slower than I'd hoped, and the family situation has evolved in unexpected ways. First, the legal updates. My lawyer successfully obtained a court order requiring Michelle to vacate my apartment within 30 days of service. The judge was unambiguous in his ruling, stating that I never surrendered my tenancy rights and that my parents and sister had no legal authority to take possession of my home. Michelle initially refused to comply, claiming she had nowhere to go. My parents offered to let her move in with them, but she rejected this option as stifling. It wasn't until my lawyer filed for a formal eviction proceeding, which would have created a permanent record affecting her ability to rent in the future, that she finally relented. The day she moved out, she left the apartment in deliberate disarray, dirty dishes in the sink, trash uncollected, and what appeared to be intentional damage to some of the walls. She also took several items that belonged to me but had been left in the apartment, including kitchen appliances I had purchased. Once I regained possession, I hired a professional cleaning service and documented everything with photographs and video. The apartment was barely recognizable as the place I'd once called home. Beyond the superficial changes in decor, there was structural damage as well. Michelle had apparently attempted to mount a television without finding the studs, leaving multiple large holes in the living room wall. The hardwood floors I'd refinished myself had deep scratches and water damage in several areas. The civil lawsuit against my parents and sister is proceeding. We've completed the discovery phase, during which my parents were forced to turn over all communications related to their renovation plans. These documents proved illuminating. Text messages between them revealed they had discussed the plan for weeks before executing it, at one point acknowledging that I probably wouldn't be happy at first, but would get over it, because family comes first. Most significantly, we finally solved the mystery of my grandfather's missing watch. During a deposition, my father admitted that he had taken the watch from my apartment and given it to my cousin Brian for his college graduation. When my lawyer pressed him on whether he believed he had the right to take my property and give it to someone else, his response was telling, "It's a family heirloom, not really James's personal property. I was just redirecting it to where it was needed." This admission strengthened our case considerably. My lawyer immediately filed a motion to recover the watch from Brian, who was previously unaware of its origins. To his credit, Brian returned the watch promptly with an apology, saying he had no idea it had been taken from me without permission. The financial accounting of damages has been extensive. Beyond the physical damage to the apartment and my possessions, we've included the cost of my extended hotel stay, legal fees, and compensation for emotional distress. The current demand exceeds $75,000, which my parents' lawyer initially dismissed as extortionate. However, after presenting detailed evidence of the damages and costs incurred, they become noticeably less dismissive. As for the family dynamics, the situation has evolved in unexpected ways. As more details of what actually happened have emerged through the legal process, the family narrative has gradually shifted. My aunt, who initially didn't believe me, called to apologize after reading the court filings, which included photographic evidence and the revealing text messages between my parents and sister. Other family members have similarly reassessed their positions, with many now expressing shock at the extent of the violation. My uncle, who had told me to man up, sent a lengthy email acknowledging that he had reacted based on incomplete and misleading information from my parents. The most surprising development has been my mother's gradual recognition of the gravity of what they did. During a particularly tense deposition, when confronted with the documented damage to my irreplaceable personal items, she broke down in tears. She later reached out through her lawyer to express remorse, though still couching it in terms of having misjudged what I would want rather than acknowledging the fundamental violation of my autonomy. My father and sister, however, remain largely unrepentant. My father continues to frame this as a family matter that should never have involved courts or lawyers. Michelle has taken to social media to portray herself as the victim of a vindictive brother, conveniently omitting the fact that she took possession of a home that wasn't hers to take. On a personal level, I've managed to find a small short-term rental apartment while I decide what to do long-term. I'm still paying the mortgage on my original apartment but can't bring myself to move back in yet. The association with what happened is too strong, and every corner holds a reminder of the violation. I'm considering selling it once the legal matters are resolved. My therapist has been helping me work through the complex emotions of this situation. The anger, betrayal, grief, and occasional guilt that surfaces despite my rational understanding that I'm not at fault. The hardest part has been accepting that my relationship with my immediate family may never be the same. Work has been a welcome distraction. I've thrown myself into projects and have even been considered for a promotion. The structure and normalcy of my professional life have been a stabilizing force. The case is scheduled for mediation next month, with a trial date set for 3 months from now if mediation fails. My lawyer is optimistic about either reaching a favorable settlement or prevailing at trial, given the strength of our evidence. I'll update again after the mediation or trial, whichever comes first. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. Update 3. 6 months later. Resolution and rebuilding. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm finally ready to share how everything resolved. So much has happened, both legally and personally, that it's difficult to know where to begin, but I'll do my best to cover the important points. The legal case reached its conclusion, though not quite in the way I expected. After 2 failed mediation attempts, during which my parents continued to minimize the severity of their actions, we were preparing for trial when my parents' lawyer approached mine with a settlement offer. The terms were comprehensive: full financial compensation for all documented damages, including the cost of repairing the apartment, replacing damaged possessions, my temporary housing expenses, and a significant amount for emotional distress. The total exceeded $90,000, which was more than our initial demand. Their only conditions were a confidentiality clause preventing me from discussing the settlement amount publicly and an agreement to drop any potential criminal charges. My lawyer advised accepting the offer, explaining that while we had a strong case, trials are unpredictable and protracted. After careful consideration, I agreed to the settlement. The funds were transferred within a week, and the case was officially closed. What prompted this sudden change in position? According to my lawyer, 2 factors likely influenced their decision. First, their own counsel had apparently advised them that their chances at trial were poor given the overwhelming evidence. Second, and perhaps more significantly, my father's business partners had become aware of the lawsuit and expressed concerns about his judgment and ethics. The potential professional repercussions seemed to finally make him understand the seriousness of the situation. With the legal battle behind me, I faced the question of what to do with my apartment. After much deliberation, I decided to sell it. Despite the repairs and renovations to restore it, I couldn't shake the feeling of violation associated with the space. Every time I walked through the door, I remembered coming home to find my life upended. The real estate market in my area was strong, and I was able to sell the apartment for significantly more than I had paid for it 3 years ago. This, combined with the settlement money, gave me the financial freedom to make a fresh start. I've purchased a new home, a small house rather than an apartment, in a different part of the city. It has a security system with cameras, and I've been very selective about who gets my new address. No one in my family has a key, and no one ever will again. Furnishing and decorating this new space has been surprisingly therapeutic. Each decision, from the color of the walls to the arrangement of furniture, has felt like reclaiming my autonomy. I've replaced most of the items that were damaged, though some, like my book collection, will take years to rebuild. As for family relationships, these have undergone a seismic shift. My parents attempted to reconcile after the settlement, sending a formal letter of apology that acknowledged the wrongness of their actions without qualifications or excuses. It was the first communication from them that didn't attempt to justify what they did or shift blame. After giving myself time to process, I responded with my own letter, outlining the boundaries I needed if we were to have any relationship moving forward. These included: 1. Absolute respect for my personal space and property. 2. No unannounced visits under any circumstances. 3. No interference in my personal decisions. 4. No triangulation or discussing me with other family members. 5. Regular therapy, both individual and family, if they wanted to rebuild a relationship. To my surprise, they agreed to all conditions. We've begun family therapy, which has been challenging but productive. My mother, in particular, has shown genuine remorse and a willingness to examine the patterns of boundary violations that led to this situation. My father has been more resistant but is at least participating. My sister Michelle has taken a different path. Following her eviction from my apartment, she moved in with our parents briefly before finding her own place. She has maintained that she was as much a victim as I was, having been misled by our parents about the situation. Our relationship remains strained, and I've kept contact minimal. The extended family has largely realigned with reality. Once the full story emerged, including the text messages and the incident with my grandfather's watch, most relatives reached out with sincere apologies for their earlier judgment. Some relationships have been repaired. Others may never fully recover. My aunt, who initially didn't believe me, has become an unexpected ally. She shared that my parents had exhibited similar boundary-crossing behavior throughout their lives, though never to this extreme. This context has helped me understand that what happened wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a long-standing pattern that no one had ever seriously challenged. On a personal level, I've continued therapy, which has helped me process the complex emotions surrounding this ordeal. The anger has gradually subsided, replaced by a more measured understanding of my family's dysfunctional dynamics and my role in maintaining them through years of compliance. Work continues to be a positive aspect of my life. I received the promotion I mentioned in my last update, which has brought new challenges and opportunities. The additional income has been helpful in establishing my new home. I've also expanded my social circle, reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. The experience has shown me who I can truly count on, and I'm grateful for the supportive people in my life who stood by me throughout this ordeal. As I sit in my new home, surrounded by things that are entirely mine and that no one can take without permission, I feel a sense of peace that had eluded me for months. The violation will always be part of my history, but it no longer defines my present or my future. For those who might find themselves in similar situations with family members who don't respect boundaries, my advice is simple. Document everything, seek legal counsel early, and don't let guilt or family obligation prevent you from standing up for yourself. Family ties are important, but they should never be used as justification for abuse or violation. The most valuable lesson I've learned is that establishing and maintaining boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential for healthy relationships. My new boundaries have actually created the possibility of a healthier relationship with my parents than we had before, though the road ahead remains long. I want to thank everyone who offered support, advice, and encouragement throughout this difficult journey. Your validation helped me stay resolute when doubt crept in, and your practical suggestions guided many of my decisions. I hope my experience can help others facing similar situations. This will be my final update on this situation. It's time to close this chapter and focus on building the life I want, surrounded by people who respect me and boundaries that protect me. Thank you for listening to my story.